What is going on, guys? It's your boy BG, and welcome to Common Sense, where common sense isn't so common. In today's topic, man, and I like to relate this to like a lot of my own situations and a lot of things that I go through myself, man. But sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you're very incorrect and you're in the wrong direction. The reason why I say that because I just went through a scenario today. Me and my pops. I just kind of just tapped in with him today, man. And it's been a while since I actually rapped to him since an incident happened a few weeks ago where he had like a stroke, a little minor stroke and whatnot. And I haven't tapped in with him really for a while. And we were long story short, I felt I was right because I went by what someone else said. As far as, I was chopping up with my mom and she was like, yeah, your dad's good, whoop de whoop de whoop. And I was just perfectly fine with that. I feel like I was in the right. I'm like, well, I ain't got nothing to worry about, you know what I'm saying? Whoop de whoop de whoop. And this, that, and third, and whatnot. And as I tend to say that, right, I went on weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks without chopping up with him. And, he felt some type of way about it, of course. And today I finally was able to, clean up a lot of things up with them today. And I told him I solely admit that I was wrong, to be honest. And I was letting my thoughts, because thoughts is like a form of ego, Thoughts is a form of ego, self-importance, self-arrogance. It deals with a lot of self, and it also comes with believing that you're right about a lot of things. And I think by nature, we all want to feel like we're right about a lot of things and a lot of scenarios that we go through. We always want to feel right. We always want to feel like no one can conspire against how I feel and what my theories are, what my thought process is. No one can't tell me I'm wrong about something that I feel like is right. You know what I'm saying? Or what I think is right. Not feel what I think is right. And when you base a lot of things upon your own thoughts, you feel like you're right about a lot of things, and that's a form of ego. And a feeling and a knowing is like a feeling and knowing is like, what's the word I want to say? It's more so of intuition. I think that's what it's called, intuition. Intuition is more of a knowing than it is a feeling. Like when you know something, you don't have to have the feelings to follow up on that knowing. You just know. You know what I'm saying? And feeling is what you feel like, what you know. And that ain't even accurate. That's like probability and statistics, basically. And knowing that you're right and feeling like that you're right is more so of a spiritual concept. And ego is more of a flesh, thought, brain, you're thinking type of process. And when me and him, we was chopping it up, man, I told him, man, I was wrong. I was like, man, I should have just went on ahead and chopped it up with you. I should have went on ahead and just called you right after, I talked with moms and said, make sure you got back home safe and whatnot. I should have just went on ahead and chopped it up with you and make sure that you was good. And I told him, like, man, I admit I was wrong. I was wrong. But it felt really good to just say that, like, admit that I'm wrong. Because life teaches you a lot of scenarios that you will be wrong in. Life teaches you a lot of things where you have to remove yourself from your own thinking and go by your own feeling and your own tuition. That's where meditation comes in, because when you meditate, you create a form of passive awareness, man, that helps you to be more self-aware of yourself, your actions, your emotions, and your feelings. And usually that's just a form of awareness. And when you're not aware of a lot of things, you will tend to tell people that you're not wrong about situations that you're definitely wrong about, especially if you're not considerate, because meditation creates a form of empathy of the other individual. Now, what empathy is, you create or generate a sense of thought that you put yourself in someone else's shoes, and it helps you to connect and understand how that person is feeling. And that's what I did in this scenario, because, not calling on your loved ones, not checking them on, especially if it's your parents, more whoever you have a really tight connection and bond with, it will definitely, spark up some type of feeling or some type of way about the scenario, because you didn't have that empathy of how they could be currently feeling. And it was like, that's like myself. If I had children and I went through like a stroke or something like that, and I didn't hear back from my kids, then I would feel like my kids don't really care enough for my well-being. That's how I would feel. But that's a source of empathy and a little bit of sympathy too, because you're feeling how their way they feeling, and you kind of like it creates a form of understanding of how the way they're feeling. Creating that sense of awareness of being aware of how someone else feels creates a bigger and better connection with the other individual that you are like being associated with. It definitely hits something different. I felt really good about it because I'm like, wow, I was able to have that type of sympathy, and it makes us feel more human than we realize when we create that form of empathy and sympathy. It makes us feel lot more human, and that's why meditation just has been such a great way of creating that awareness of being aware that you could be wrong. And sometimes, like I said, when you listen to too much of the flesh, when you listen too much of the mind, when you listen to too much of the ego, you feel as though you're right about a lot of scenarios, and the spirit would tell you whether or not something is right or wrong, because you could feel the energy of something, or you could feel the energy of the other individual. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, but in a lot of cases, we aren't taught to have that type of self-awareness and that type of self-consciousness of being aware that we are wrong. Now, because we so tied into our emotions and our feelings, because sometimes feelings can backfire too. Because when your feelings are too much involved, you have to mix a form of being logic. Because when feelings are getting too involved, you're not thinking with your head anymore. You're thinking with a lot of your feelings and your emotions. But I think it comes with a source of balance. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm contradicting a little bit on what I'm saying, but it all makes sense kind of like in the end. But you have to kind of make a form of balance between the both of emotions and feelings. Well, between self-awareness and ego. You know what I'm saying? You just have to have a form of balance within those two entities. You know what I'm saying? And, I said in sincere apology, man. I thought, man, I know I'm wrong. When you feel some type of, when someone's calling you on something and you consistently ignoring or being ignorant, because the root word of ignorance is to ignore. And when you ignore something, you're ignoring the other individual, or you're ignoring their opinions or how they're feeling. Sometimes some people, you have to kind of ignore certain people because, I don't know, certain people are just iffy individuals. You know what I'm saying? Because if you entertain a clown, you might as well run a circus. For real. But, back to where I was really saying, sometimes feelings can get you kind of twisted up too, because then you're not thinking logically anymore. And to be honest, that's with females. No shots thrown, but let's keep it real here, ladies. Whoever really do tap into this podcast, y'all have more way. Shout out to y'all. Y'all have way more better emotional intelligence than us men. It's kind of like for us, we kind of like wear a sleeve, whereas, man, we think we good, but we really ain't good. But y'all prone to show emotion a lot more than us dudes. We try to be the logical type. Y'all be the more emotional type. And don't get me wrong, there are men that are emotional out here. Don't get it twisted. But naturally, women are more connected with their emotions than it is with men. And men, they tend to try and, like I said, hide that emotion and like, yeah, man, we straight, man, knowing the nigga hurt. I mean, my bad. Let me exit that out. I don't know if I should exit that out, but knowing that the guy is truly hurting in the end, to be honest, and just we're pretty terrible at emotional intelligence. We're pretty terrible at that. So I feel like men, my dudes, and I kind of understand from a male's perspective, because sometimes when dudes be in their emotions, and then it's like women be like, man, you're too emotional. What else you expect me to do? I have to find some way to cope with these emotions. If not, then these emotions is like putting a seed in the dirt, and that seed grows into something way larger. That's with anything, right? So, but that's clearly off topic. But the bottom line is, man, sometimes we are wrong, and we base a lot of our ego and what are we thinking that makes us feel like we're right all the time. We just feel like we're right. We want to feel like we're right. And it's kind of crazy to me because it happens so often. A lot of people go with ego, and we call those ignorant people. Once again, the root word of ignorance is to ignore. But the bottom line is, man, to really just slide this in there, since I'm already talking about my personal scenario, what I just kind of like went through, man, just make sure you just connect with your loved ones, no matter how bitter they are. I don't know. To some people, their scenarios are pretty different. The context of the scenario could be different from a lot of individuals. But, just even when it comes to a mother, well, a parenting relationship between the parents and then the child, man, I look at it this way, man. It's better to be someone who is very grateful to have parents, even if they could be assholes. It's not. It's grateful to have that, because there are people who, in a lot of times, don't have that type of relationship. They don't have parents that deal with them at all. There's some people that has mothers but don't have fathers, and there's people who have fathers that don't have mothers. And when you have both of them still in your life, that within itself is a blessing, no matter how terrible the person is. I mean, and it is the parents' fault, right, if they're raised a particular way, and them not choosing to change is truly on their behalf. You know what I'm saying? No one has a gun to your head and enforces. You know what I'm saying? No one has a gun to your head and it says, "Oh, you need to change." You choose that on your own accord. But by the way, it feels extremely great to even say that I am indeed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So hooray to me, for real, for real. Let's give her a round of applause. You know. You feel me? So I finally am on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and YouTube, and eventually I'm gonna start, throwing in them little let's say those videos, those actual videos, live videos. I'm trying to figure out a way now to work on that, but we gonna get to that later, for real. But bottom line is, man, let's turn back to the topic a little bit. I always enjoy the people that are in your life, because everyone's life is like a vapor, and each day as we continue to live, that drip of water, which is us, can disappear within an instant. That's on an everyday basis. God taught us to love. God taught us to show compassion. God taught us to be compassionate. God taught us to show and give off empathy, not sympathy sometimes, because sympathy will make you feel like you belittling someone else, and some people feel as though that is a really, really disrespectful thing. But empathy is understanding how someone else feels and the things that they go through. And we just want to be able to have more people that's that way. That's why it's always good not to take things so literal. And sometimes it's hard, Sometimes it's hard not to take things literal, because when we take things literal, that means we thinking with logic. We thinking with ego, It's like ego is like I guess you could say, a piece of psychology. Once when someone says something and it triggers something in your head, it's like it's a form of energy, bruh. It's a form of energy. I believe ego is like an energy. I don't know. I just came up with that, to be honest. But I feel like ego is a form of energy, and it just, I don't know, bruh. I don't know. I can't really go way too deep into it. But sometimes us as individuals, man, we gotta admit that we're wrong. We gotta admit that the things that we do are wrong, and it's not a problem of just being corrected. And I might just have a part 2 to this, but I might be featuring someone else on there. So, for sure, just make sure you follow my Instagram, man, at cs.podcast, man. Make sure you look up on that Spotify, man, Common Sense Podcast. I know it's quite individuals that have that same thing, but you could just put, Common Sense Podcast, Braxton Green. You know what I'm saying? Put my name in that joint. You feel me? You're gonna find me more quickly and more better at BRAXTON Braxton Green, GREEN, for sure. You know what I'm saying? Same thing on Apple Podcasts, man. You can search me up on there. It feels good because I feel like I'm moving up in the world. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm on Apple Podcasts, for real. So I feel like I'm really doing something. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just feel like you just, for real. Yeah, man. Great faith plus great work ethic creates vulnerable opportunity. Once again, you can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And we're going to be focusing on expanding this and onto Google Podcasts and whatnot. And I want to make sure to my viewers out there who are indeed listening, especially to the ones who listening to this on Apple Podcasts, man. Make sure you have that. You place that 5 stars on that joint, for real. You know what I'm saying? Rate it. Comment down below how you feel about this podcast. And I'll catch you guys later in the next episode of Common Sense Podcast. Oh, wait, to be honest, I don't even keep track of these episodes. Like I'm not even gonna lie, like I pre-record everything. You feel me? So I don't even know what episode it is. I think we're gonna be in the 20s by this time. So yes, sir. All right, catch y'all later. Peace.